Good evening. I know these gentlemen are making me happy. Good evening to you. Welcome on board. This is TV47's Daily Report, but of importance, the People's Court. Karibu sana.
Welcome to the broadcast. My name is George Maringa on this 16th day of January 2024, where we are a full house.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. It's great to be back. You guys have been doing a tremendous job letting Kenyans know what's happening in their world, of course, from the home of untold stories. Great
And
to
of
be
course,
back.
it's good to have you back. I mean, the last time I was here, it's me who was saying, oh, you guys were telling me it's good to have me back and all that. I never imagined Victor
Perhaps
would go and leave that first.
Our viewers, Happy New Year.
Oh, right. It's still early. They say you can say Happy New Year up until Easter.
That's true.
So, good people, Happy New Year to you. And I mean it. I hope this year is actually a Happy New Year to all of you.
And having started on a good note, today we get into very, very important conversations. Well, I would say conversations because they would involve a lot of faces. As always, on the People's Court, we have different views based on the guests that we have on set. And so today, as we discuss the numerous cases of femicides, the numerous cases of gender-based violence, that's basically what we'll be looking at. We involve an advocate of the High Court. We involve, a representative from FIDA. We involve activists. We just get their views on
As
this.
well as
Politicians, the psychologists, but as well us.
Of course, we shall also be hearing from politicians as well as a women empowerment program, as well as activists regarding this whole issue, especially coming at the backdrop of the two cases of the deaths at the Airbnbs, Victor.
Absolutely. It's a tremendously scary situation. Lots of people are worried. And there's discussions all across the country on why is this happening? Why now? And what do we need to do to get out of this place? And that's some of the things, that's just some of the list of things that we're going to be talking about tonight with you on the People's Court later on.
Absolutely, and we invite your feedback at TV47 News, at Muyakane, at Linda_Alela, at George Maringa_. Our SMS line is open to 2047. Start with your name, where you're watching us from, as well as your question, your feedback on the same. But first, the highlights. Tonight, President William Ruto welcomes invitation to hold talks with the judiciary as recommended by Chief Justice Martha Koome.
I am ready for the conversation on how we are going to deal with vested interests, with incompetence, and with especially corruption.
This as the opposition rubbishes the idea.
Martha Koome, don't compromise the independence of the judiciary. They're going to bed with the executive.
Rules tonight, controversial Paul Mackenzie to face 10 counts of murder and terrorism for allegedly masterminding the death of over 400 people on Friday.
Plus, stop disrespecting the president with your 2032 talk. DP Gachagua warns MPs from his restless Mount Kenya backyard.
William Ruto amechaguliwa juzi. Mwaka moja. He has 9 years to go. You are talking about succeeding him. Munataka kurithi munataka kugawa mzee akiwa hai.
Our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy. We thank you for joining us. Before that important discussion tonight, let's get you informed with the news making headlines. Chief Justice Martha Koome's remarks regarding the necessity of communication to address the current attacks on the judiciary and charges of corruption against judicial officers have been warmly received by President William Ruto. But the opposition, led by Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka of Azimio la Umoja, has asked the Ruto-led administration to step back and allow the judiciary to carry out its mission, claiming that the attack on the judiciary is improper. Mike Kagongo begins our broadcast tonight with that report.
The tug of war between the judiciary, the executive and the political class has taken a new twist. Just a day after Chief Justice Martha Koome extended an olive branch of dialogue to iron out issues raised by the executive. Speaking on Tuesday at Tinderet Integrated Technical and Trainers College commissioning in Nandi County, President William Ruto stated that he was willing to lead the discussion and that all three branches of government should be involved.
We will support, we will defend the independence of the judiciary, but we will deal decisively and firmly with corruption in judiciary.
The head of state restated his early observations that some people were eager to use judicial officer bribery to undermine government agendas for their own selfish ends. However, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga, speaking in Vihiga, stated that Chief Justice Martha Kome's meeting with President William Ruto will signal the start of the judiciary's degradation. Odinga emphasized that the Judicial Service Commission does not require meetings with Ruto.
Martha Koome, don't compromise the independence of the judiciary by going to bed with the executive. There's nothing to be discussed between you and the executive. Just give an order that the judicial rulings must be respected by everybody, including the President of Kenya.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka claimed that the attack on the court was improper, urging the Ruto-led administration to back off and let the judiciary do its job.
There's nothing to negotiate. Absolutely. And I would be very disappointed if Chief Justice Koome was to fall for that obvious trick and fall into a trap. These institutions are clearly set out under the Constitution.
In a heated exchange of words between the executive and the judiciary, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua openly criticized Justice Esther Maina. Kalonzo called this outlandish and unethical.
And he named a judge completely unethical. That's why I call that conduct absurd to the extreme. It doesn't happen anywhere.
Chief Justice Martha Koome, addressing concerns raised by President William Ruto against certain judges, warned that attacks on the judiciary could plunge the country into chaos and potential constitutional crisis. Koome stressed the urgent need for dialogue to avert further escalation. Mike Kagwongo, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike, for that. Controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie is expected to face 10 counts of murder, terrorism and subjecting a child to torture on Wednesday. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Ingonga, says they have sufficient evidence to ensure that Mackenzie and 94 others will be found guilty for causing the deaths of over 400 people in the Shakahola massacre. Sheila Chelangat has the details.
Days after the ultimatum of 14 days to file charges against Shakahola massacre suspects by the Shanzu court to the state, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution has given a green light for the 95 suspects to be arraigned in court. This seen as a step towards accountability and closure for some of the victims. In a statement, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Ingonga, says Mackenzie and the 94 will each face 10 counts of charges clustered into 3 groups of murder, terrorism and radicalization, and subjecting a child to torture. The 3 clusters of charges will be handled in 3 separate courts, with murder charges dispensed at the Malindi Law Courts, terrorism and radicalization charges at the Shanzu Law Courts, with the Tononoka Children Court handling the subjecting a child to torture charge. Mackenzie, together with 30 others who are said to bear the greatest responsibility, are expected at the Malindi Law Courts. Last week, the court gave the ODPP a 14-day deadline to charge Mackenzie and his co-accused, arguing that pushing the charges further than that could infringe on the rights of the accused. Interior CS Kithure Kindiki has promised to ensure Mackenzie rots in jail.
Mahakama ikimwachilia, tutamrudisha pale. Sababu mahakama zetu za ingine tunaambia watu huyu ni mkora ameua watu, wanasema iko haki, sijui katiba gani inatumika, wanaachilia. Hata wakimwachilia ule bwana atazeekea pale jela na atatoka jela aende akakutane na hukumu ya Mwenyezi Mungu.
Mackenzie and the other suspects have been in custody for over 117 days after his Good News International Church is said to have caused over 400 people to starve to death. Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
Thank you, Sheila, for that. City lawyer John Ndegwa has filed a petition challenging the new SSNSF deductions that are to take effect next month, that is February. Ndegwa says the new NSSF rates scheduled to start this February is untenable and wants the notice to be quashed given the high cost of living. Paul Kirobi gives us the details.
I filed today under certificate of urgency.
With the 2 weeks remaining before the end of January, John Ndegwa, a city lawyer, has filed a case at the Milimani Law Court challenging the proposed NSSF deduction adjustments set to take effect next month. In his petition, he contends that the economic repercussions of these changes could have adverse effect on Kenya's economy, potentially forcing employers to declare workers redundant due to increased operational costs. Ndegwa further argues that the deductions on an employee's payslip will subject salaried workers to more pain due to the high cost of living. He has accused the NSSF management of failing to offer guidance to employers, thus causing confusion and anxiety in both public and private sectors. He wants the court to declare orders nullifying the NSSF notice.
The times we are living are so chaotic. The cost of living is so high, and I know that the courts will empathize and sympathize with the plight of workers who are toiling so hard to bring food on their tables.
His fear is that if the court will not move with speed to address the issue, the respondent in the matter will implement the new rates come February 1st. According to the new rates, the lower earnings limit will be raised to 7,000 shillings, up from the current 6,000 shillings. Employees in this category will contribute at least 420 shillings, up from the current 360 shillings. Simultaneously, the upper earnings limit is increased to 29,000 shillings from the current 18,000 shillings, resulting in many workers contributing 1,740, up from the current 1,080 shillings. Employers will continue to match each contribution as it has been the practice. These rates are set to remain in effect until the next review in January 2025 as part of a phased plan that began last year to gradually increase rates over a 5-year period. The new rates is coming at a time the housing levy matters remains unresolved in the corridors of justice until the end of January. Paul Kirobi, TV 47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Paul, for that. Tonight, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has warned politicians from his restless Mount Kenya backyard to desist from 2032 succession politics, terming as disrespect to President Dr. William Ruto and being insensitive to Kenyans. Gachagua, who spoke in Bomet County during the burial of Mzee Philip Tonui, father of Bomet Senator Hilary Sigei, dismissed the succession talk coming a year after Kenya Kwanza was elected into office as premature. Apollo Kamau reports.
A restless weekend in the Mount Kenya region after a section of young MPs allied to Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro endorsed him for the presidency and the kingpin of the region. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua read the Riot Act to the MPs, terming the ongoing 2027-2032 politics as not only premature but disrespectful to President William Ruto and insensitive to Kenyans a year after Kenya Kwanza was elected to office.
You young people, what is the problem? President has just been elected. Si ni mwaka moja. Ati watu naanza kusema ati ni mimi ati huyu ndio atasucceed yetu 2032. Kwanza, it is disrespectful to the president. Hiyo ni kukosa heshima kwa kiongozi.
Gachagua, who spoke in Bomet during the burial of Mzee Philip Tonui, father to County Senator Hilary Sigei, further silenced his critics, telling them he will not be derailed in quest to support Ruto's development agenda.
I have only one focus as Rigathi Gachagua Deputy President, and no other. I am focused in only one thing: assisting President William Ruto to succeed, and nothing else.
During a charged education event in Kiharu, Central Kenya, MPs threw their weight behind Nyoro for 2032, claiming Gashagua's divisive behavior might hurt Ruto's chances in the region come 2027.
This is a presidential material. Tuihamwe. Na ukisikia nikisema hivyo, mimi naitwa Elijah. Na Elijah unajua ni prophet.
Sisi twamtambua Dende Nyoro kiongozi wetu.
Political analysts have termed the Kiharu declaration as premature and likely to backfire on Nyoro.
Raila didn't go and pick Kibaki from Wadaya. Kibaki was already there. He was already, alikuwa ameiva. Kibaki was ready. So Kibaki Tosha just pushed a vehicle that was ready to go. How ready is Ndindi Nyoro? Ndindi Nyoro's vehicle is even still in the garage. It doesn't even have wheels. So if somebody toshes you when you are not even half ready, they are destroying you. Why? Because then Ndindi Nyoro becomes a marked man.
Among the Kiharu MP's staunch defenders are Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, Muranga Senator Joe Nyoto, Woman Representative Betty Maina, and Gatanga MP Edward Murio. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Wait to see how that turns out. Police have apprehended one suspect believed to be of Nigerian descent hours after CCTV footage revealed that the main suspect behind the killing in a gruesome murder of a woman believed to be in her 20s, whose body parts were dumped in a trash bin within the building which houses an Airbnb in Roysambu, Nairobi. Investigations is also picking pace as detectives are piecing together to possibly figure out what transpired from around 4 p.m. when the CCTV captured the main suspect up to when the body parts were discovered, as Moige William now reports.
Another suspect. Tuesday, detectives apprehending another person connected to the ongoing investigations of the gruesome murder of a woman whose body parts were found on Sunday in Roysambu with the head missing. The apprehension coming hours after CCTV footage unmasked the identity of the man believed to be at the center of the killing. The suspect, whose details remain scanty at the moment, is said to have been arrested around the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The probe by police has also involved speaking to friends of the deceased woman, one of whom had intimated to a friend that she had gone to have dinner with a friend in Roysambu but failed to turn up a day after, and her phone was switched off. With the retrieval of CCTV footage, which sleuths are still gathering more information on in a bid to try and piece together what transpired between the time the suspect, donning in a black pant, sweater and a white cape with spectacles, was captured at around 4 p.m. Saturday and when the pieces of the body were discovered. The identity of the woman remains to be a mystery, with the detectives lifting fingerprints for forensic analysis even as a family visited City Mortuary where they positively identified the remains, albeit a missing head. The list of suspects is at 3. Police are still holding 2 suspects early arrested, including the owner of the apartment, to improve the murky details surrounding the identity of the main suspect, who is believed to be male. Investigators familiar with the case have observed the deceased could have been murdered elsewhere, as the Airbnb room which the main suspect had leased was found to be squeaky clean, with no traces or signs of a struggle or even blood stains. Police officers are also scratching their heads over the real number of culprits, citing the level of mutilation and dismemberment observed on the body. Moige William, TV47.
And of course, that story will form part of our conversation tonight right here on the People's Court. Keep your feedback coming. Heavy rains that have continued to pound the country have caused havoc among the residents of Bunyala South, Budalangi constituency in Busia County, with residents complaining of floods that have rendered them homeless. 15 families have already relocated, with 18 others in camps. The floods have paralyzed learning activities, with schools being submerged in the flood waters.
This is the situation at Bunyala South. Floodwaters from the ongoing heavy rains mixed with waters from Lake Victoria. Residents fearing a repeat of previous flood disasters, the recent one being in 2019.
Tena tutarudi penye tulikuwa tangu 2019 December 2020 yote, tukawa na kambi kubwa hapa mahali ambao tuko sahi.
The havoc caused by floods has displaced most of the residents from their homesteads, some living in makeshift camps.
Maji imetusumbua, tumetoka hapa, tumeenda ngambo, tumeishi, tumerudi hapa. Angai maji inatusumbua, wengine tujarudi boma yetu. Tumeishi maboma ya watu. Vile hata vile tunaishi bi walipea sisi makapela tena meraruka hata tuna maisha yetu ni mabaya.
Education has been paralyzed in the region, with schools being rendered unreachable and roads impassable.
Tuko hapa karibu na shule yetu ya secondary ambayo ilikuwa imepata ufadhili wa mheshimiwa Rafael Sauti Bito Anjala ambaye alikuwa ameirenovate hata ilikuwa watoto waingie mwaka huu Jumatatu yenye tunaenda hii, lakini kulingana na maji inaonekana na watoto hawataingia sababu kuna backflow ya maji ambayo imevamia tena hii shule na ilikuwa imefanywa renovation.
Shule kama Madua is a primary school, iko Bunyala South. Sasa iko ndani ya maji. Hata haijafunguliwa kwa sababu yote iko ndani ya maji. Sasa iko access shule kama Runyu Primary hauwezi.
The only request is for the government to expedite help and relief operations.
Ni vema muanze mapema venye tumeanza kuambia, lakini mkingoja kuharibike kama mwaka 2020, hiyo nawaambia ukweli tutakuja huko.
Vera Alberta, T47.
Thank you, Vera, for that. A cloud of hopelessness and despair engulfed Kanga High School after 2 students from Migori County broke down to tears after they were forced to join the school with their primary school uniforms due to poverty. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the school administration has vowed to retain the students as they call on well-wishers to sponsor their education.
Ninataka kusoma angalau nikifika maishani nikimaliza kusoma nisaidie the community wenye kuna shida kama mimi.
It is the cry of Anwar Busaka, a Form 1 student joining Kanga High School. During his admission, Busaka could only afford to show up with this metal box, a bar of soap, and his KCPE certificate. His school uniform is tattered, this being enough proof of the poverty this young boy is grappling with in his pursuit to quench his thirst for education.
Nimeamua tu nikuje, angalau hata nipate tu kama kuna msaada nitapata niweze kusoma. Wazazi wangu hawana uwezo.
John Odero shares a similar story. He also joined this school using his primary school uniform. Odero tells us during the holiday, he was able to work on people's farm and used the money to purchase this metal box and a pair of sport shoes.
Nilikuwa naamka asubuhi, naenda namuuliza mtu kama kuna kitu naweza mfanyia, hata nikipata 100 kwa siku naweka.
Busaka tells us his burning desire for a better future is the driving force that forced him to make his way to the school with this metal box gifted to him by his primary school teacher after he scored 396 marks in KCPE. Odero, on the other hand, scored 387 marks.
This school has been my dream since class 5, and I really worked hard so that I can manage to get in this school. But by bad luck, my parent, my single mother, who is also sick, cannot provide my school fees.
Kanga High School principal has, however, assured Odero and Busaka that they will continue with their studies after some students offered to donate their school uniforms.
We must just give them the basics items so that they start. And then we want to appeal for well-wishers to support them, maybe pay school fees and sustain them in school.
For now, Odero and Busaka hope that their tears of tribulations will soon be transformed to tears of joy and success as they look forward to completing their studies. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that, and we hope that well wishes come through for them. Let's make sense of the sense, and the East African community is currently a conglomeration of squabbling countries, with Kenya and Uganda embroiled over oil. Kenya and Tanzania with a one-day bout over air travel, Somalia fearing the recognition of Somaliland as a country after an MOU was signed with Ethiopia, and Burundi closing its borders with Rwanda. Kisawa Emery with a detailed analysis of the current state of the East African community.
Together
The East African community is at a crossroads. Almost every member state is currently at odds with another member, with countries pointing fingers over various issues. The problem?
Essentially, it's a personality clashes, which is made worse by lack of clarity as to direction and policies.
Kenya, currently at odds with Uganda and embroiled in a court case over oil, has come out as a main protagonist in the area, even as diplomatic gaffes continue mounting. Kenya and Tanzania have also been at odds over the last couple of days over air travel, as Tanzania retaliated Kenya's cargo flight ban by banning Kenya Airways from traveling to Dar es Salaam. The issue was quickly resolved over the space of a day, but this has clearly shown that Tanzania is not afraid to follow drastic action to defend national interests.
Sure, somebody is not thinking somewhere in the Kenyan policy-making structure. And it looks as if the minister, Musalia Mudavadi, was not aware of what was going on. So he now comes in to try and put out the fire. He's firefighting it.
Elsewhere in the region, Burundi closed its borders with Rwanda over accusations that Paul Kagame's government has backed DLC-based rebel group Red Tabara. This comes even as Somalia and Ethiopia are embroiled in a tense diplomatic situation after Ethiopia signed an MOU with Somaliland so as to access the sea. What this has brought is a tense situation in the region as countries try and strong-arm one another with no regard for the well-being of their neighbors. One only needs to look at the fall of the EAC in 1977 to see the pitfalls of constant bickering among neighbors. However, there is hope. The EAC dispute resolution mechanism has been noted as a strength, with experts urging the community to rethink and reshape the structure so as to allow for better collaboration.
So there is need to rethink the structure, the philosophy, and then the coordination, because all of those things are not looking very good.
With East African countries seemingly at odds with each other, what remains to be seen is whether these countries can settle their differences for the betterment of the East African community. Kisewa Emery reporting for TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Kisewa Emery, for that outlook of the EAC, making more sense on the AfCTA, that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, will be first realized on e-commerce platforms as countries who had signed the agreement look to forging business-to-business connections at traders. Kenya Trade Network Agency CEO, that is Ishmael Bet, says this would open up Kenyan businesses to a 1.3 billion people market, revolutionizing trade without the involvement of infrastructure, which was the biggest deterrent to businesses between the countries.
After the Africa Continental Free Trade Area was forged in 2018, very little progress has been achieved, with the signatory governments convening occasionally to flash out issues hampering this trade. One of the main deterrents was a lack of connecting infrastructure that hampered movement of goods and people. This, topped with policy differences, made it close to impossible for Kenyan businesses to advance further than the country's borders.
The existing structure, our manufacturing or our B2B commerce in general, has been operating for ages in a certain way, relying on distribution networks. And it's hard for them to jump straight away into a direct trade between the manufacturing and the retailer. So they're still hesitating a lot. I mean, the manufacturing themselves, the manufacturers and other wholesalers, the suppliers.
To make the facilitation easier to get onto those platforms and do the administration for you, so that you only have to worry about actually your transactions and no longer about how will I arrange the logistics, but also the customs and the taxes and all the other part and the paperwork that comes with it. So
E-commerce has now been identified as the solution for better business-to-business connections within the continent, ensuring cohesive movement of goods and virtual value chains.
Frank already said, we first start with the demand, creating demand. If we do not start with creating demand, people will not want to ship because there's nothing to ship, right? So we started that aspect. The second part is, of course, trying to use the platform and see how much we can ease all the issues for transport and other things using technology solutions to ease the issues that you encounter as a merchant or a buyer.
The success depends on the way the whole ecosystem, everybody comes together to make a new technology work. We have a platform, but if the sellers do not trust us enough to sell on the platform, we won't have business. So the magic we hope to happen won't never happen.
They say this will revolutionize investment promotion, allowing for potential mergers and acquisitions within borders. Hibak Said for TV47.
Let's get sporty. This is TV47 Sports News. Remember, you now have a chance to win amazing prizes like an all-expense paid trip to Mombasa Beach Hotel, Busia, airtime, cooking oil, bus fare and other prizes with Radio 47 and ClickBet. To participate, dial *448# on your phone and follow the prompts. Now, the Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Youth Affairs and Creative Economy, Ababu Namwamba, presided over a high-level stakeholders meeting early Tuesday morning in the capital, Nairobi. The engagement comes at a time when Kenya is preparing for the Ladies European Tour at Vipingo Ridge, the Magical Kenya Open at Muthaiga Golf Club, the World Rally Championship and the Paris Olympics. Namwamba asked federations to put their houses in order ahead of a busy sporting 2024 calendar. Top ministry officials were in attendance, together with corporate partners, chairmen and presidents of sports associations and other stakeholders.
I've asked all federations to make sure that even as we support them, and all federations will admit that they have received stronger, bigger, deeper support from government than at any other time. This is the one government that is providing support to sports on a level never seen before. And we expect all sporting federations to reciprocate. And the reciprocation we want is good governance, we want transparency, we want accountability, we want every sporting discipline to be run properly.
Now, that has been TV47 Sports News. Remember, you now have a chance to win amazing prizes like an all-expense paid trip to Mombasa Beach Hotel, Busia, airtime, cooking oil, bus fare and other prizes with Radio 47 and ClickBet. To participate